Welcome into a For What It's Worth episode 22. It's your host, Calvin Silvers, and we have a lot to get into with this episode. We're going to be going over what we saw from this weekend in the wild card round, some surprises, some things we expected, but honestly, some good games and then some bad games. It kind of what you would expect here in the opening round of not only the NFL playoffs, but any playoff format, honestly. But that's for another debate and another story. Well, let's just jump right into it because, like I said, a lot to get into. And we're going to start with the most recent game that we saw, which was the Monday night contest between the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. This was just, I didn't expect this outcome necessarily. I expected the Rams to win. I said that in the last podcast with Tyrone. So I expected the Rams to win, but not in this style. But another thing I expected, and I don't want to sit here on my high horse, and be like, I told you so, I told you so. But Sam Darnold did not show up again when it mattered. I mentioned that in the last podcast episode, in episode 21, that the one time that we had to see Sam Darnold really face pressure in the regular season was week 18 against the Lions for the number one seed. Couldn't get it done there. Played terrible. Now he has that made him fall to the 5 seed. Has to go against a good Rams offense and defense showed up tonight. I guess you were going against Darnold, but besides the point, it's a good Rams team, and yet you failed to show up again. So the two times that you were pressured this season to really do something when it really mattered, when everything was on the table, all the chips pushed to the middle, what'd you do? You didn't show up at all. Now your offensive line can take blame for that in those 2 weeks. That's fine. I agree. Some needs to be thrown their way, but for the most part, it was on you, dude. You're overthrowing receivers. You're holding the ball too long, and now I think you cost your future with the Minnesota Vikings, which I don't know if that's a win or a loss, and for Darnold's sake. But he will find a team. I mean, he played well enough in the regular season to warrant a team picking him up, but did cost him some millions of dollars. Now, like I said too, go ahead and just look at that. I'm not going to dive too deep into it because we got playoffs to talk about. We're not too focused on the regular season too much anymore. But I mean, look at who Sam Darnold and the Vikings were going up against a majority of their season, if not all season, until it got, you know, to the end with the Lions. Nobody's. They were playing nobodies. Nobody's. So, anyways, besides the point, I told you guys so. Sam Darnold wasn't going to show up. I don't know why anyone was putting too much stock in Sam Darnold. A lot of people play good regular season. That's because there's not, a lot of pressure yet. It doesn't really start gaining pressure until middle towards the end, maybe even a little past the middle of the season. So people play more loosely. Look at Dak Prescott. That's a fine example right there. All right. Let's get into the game here. Matthew Stafford. Now that is one quarterback that still shows up when it matters, and he set the tone early. He was 11 of 12, 124 yards and a touchdown in the first two drives. So showing up early shows that the Rams trust him. You can put the ball in his hands. He's going to deliver. He's been doing it his whole career. He's got Puka Nakua. He connected on a 27-yard strike. Had a 23-yard completion to Tyler Higbee, who had a big night before he had to go out. And then he had that 5-yard touchdown to Kyron Williams, who Tyrone said in a couple episodes ago that he's a very underrated back. So you saw it early. They were getting it going. They had to use a field goal to get the 10-0 lead, but Stafford was still doing Stafford things. And the Rams, like I said, were relying on him because they only ran the ball twice in those first two drives. So really going with Stafford, really wanted him to set the tone. And when you have players like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua, now Cooper Kupp wasn't even a factor, and they still were able to get the amount of points they did. Now I know the defense helped there, but still able to get it done. Sam Darnold just did not play well. Now, granted, he was under pressure all night. He was sacked, I believe, 8 times was the final. Maybe they finally got up to 9, but it was 8 or 9, around 73 yards he lost total in sacks. Uh, just terrible. It wasn't necessarily just his line either, because he does hold on to the ball. I believe has the third longest holding on to the ball time in the NFL this season. the third longest. He just holds onto the ball. Now, my question is, should I go there yet? Yeah, let's go there. When he had the fumble, why was he holding onto the ball? He was getting sacked so much prior. You got to get rid of the ball. You're gonna get strip sacked. You're gonna get hit. Something bad's gonna happen when you hold on to the ball. You're Sam Darnold. Come on, let's be a little real here. But besides the fact he was still missing open receivers, he was overthrowing them, couldn't connect on deep passes. They had a trouble with that against the Lions too. They wouldn't go deep. They can't connect on deep passes. Now I don't know if that. I mean, you have the receivers to do it, so go do it. You have deep threat receivers. I just think it's Darnold's ability. It's not quite there. He can't connect on the deep plays. That's that's an issue. And just yeah, as I mentioned, fumbled while just sitting in the pocket too long, leading to the Rams touchdown, got him the 17-3 lead. Just no balance from the Vikings either. I mean, where was their run game? Aaron Jones, Cam Akers. Seems like they were absent all night. So then you're gonna have to go and rely on Darnold. I know you got down, so you have to pass more, but then you're gonna go rely on Darnold. Come on. If you had someone better back there, I'd understand. But yeah, Darnold. Let's go ahead and talk about Puka Nacua because not only was he just a great asset in catching the ball, but he's also a threat in just being a presence out there. If we go down to one of Stafford's touchdown passes with David Allen, he was wide open because Puka Nacua required two receivers to go on him. They dropped four in coverage. Two of them went to Puka on one side. So, yeah, that's going to leave Allen wide open. So, even if he's not necessarily doing, two touchdown games or this and that, he's still a threat no matter where he's lined up. And Cooper Kupp, as I mentioned earlier, he wasn't a factor at all. Yet Stafford is still able to dish it out to multiple receivers, still able to get everyone involved and just able to, keep the offense going. That's all he had to do. Got it done. Struck early, got it said that the crowd was favoring Minnesota there in Glendale. So, took the crowd out of it per se early, got your crowd into it early, led the way. As mentioned, I do think it was 9 sacks for 82 yards. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think they did get up to 9 sacks at the end there. So just yeah, that defense was absolutely amazing. And I mentioned this in the last podcast too that this was going to be an issue. We saw this. This was a foreshadowing. This happened to Darnold when they played the Rams earlier in the season. They were getting to him. Not this much, obviously. I mean, they tied a playoff record for sacks, but they were still getting him to him early and often or later, and then often, and then in this game it was all game. So, congrats to the Rams. I called that one. Wasn't perfect on the weekend, but I did call that one. So let's move on to the other just great game, maybe the best game of the weekend. Commanders 23, Bucks 20. I said last podcast. I've been saying that a lot. If you want to play a drinking game while you're listening to this, just go ahead and take a shot every time I said in the last podcast. I'll try to eliminate that. I'll just say what I said. So what I said was that this game was going to be a toss-up. It was going to come down to probably 3 points. I just said it was going to go Tampa Bay's way, and it did not. It went the Commanders' way. I thought Baker Mayfield and his experience in the playoffs was going to pull through. Nope, it was the rookie, and not only just a rookie, but a franchise quarterback rookie. That's right. The Commanders have their guy. Daniels has been doing this all season. Close games, he doesn't break a sweat most of the time. It's just it comes natural. First postseason win for the Commanders since 2005. Daniels, face of the franchise. Historic performance, 250. That's another thing. We're not just talking Jalen Hurts numbers of 132 yards. No, we're talking 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Led his team in rushing with 36 yards. He became the first rookie quarterback to lead his team in both passing and rushing in a playoff win, and the first Washington quarterback to win a playoff game doing that since 1937. Absolutely crazy. And here's the thing, too, that Daniels is having a better rookie season than what we saw last year with CJ Stroud. Yeah, sure. CJ Stroud got to the divisional round too, but he was at home when he did that. Daniels had to go on the road and do that in Tampa Bay and was able to get it done in a playoff game, his first playoff game nonetheless. So, and just his ability to close out games all season, and where his team stands, what his team was, and just a laughing stock of the NFL before he got to where he is now, it's better than what we saw last year with CJ Stroud. And not only that, he's clutch. Not only is he the face of the franchise, not only is he the first rookie quarterback to do this since 1937, and this and that and that and this, and no interceptions. No, not only that, he had the ball with less than 4 minutes to go. A moment. We talk about moments in football, and in sports, really, in any sport. What did you do when the lights were the brightest? And what did he do? He completed all three of his passes and scrambled for a critical 4-yard first down on 3rd and 2. That's what he did with 39 seconds remaining, and that set up the doink field goal, game-winning field goal, I should say. So, just extraordinary campaign. Primetime win over Cincinnati. Hail Mary to beat Chicago. Playoff clinching overtime victory against Atlanta. This guy has had a season, a memorable one, better than what we saw with CJ Stroud. It's been a lot of fun. And not only that, not only is he, the face of the franchise, the next man up, he has and I said this, I caught myself, or I'm talking, a few games in the season type. I said my favorite quarterback wide receiver duo was Scary Terry and Jaden Daniels, and boy, did they put on a show for us. Playoff worthy performance, 7 catches for McLaurin, 89 yards, fourth quarter touchdown that gave Washington the first lead of its first lead of the game. Just amazing stuff. A lot of receivers had a great game there for the Commanders, just showing what Daniels can do. Now, one thing that kept them in it and even maybe sparked them or gave him momentum or juice or however you want to, spread it out here was just the aggressive coaching from Dan Wood, doubling down on his aggressive fourth down play calling, even if it worked or didn't work, and then, later would go back. We got to do it. We have to do it. 3 of 5 attempts. So they didn't just go for it once or twice. No, they went for it 5 times, including that 4th and 2 touchdown in the fourth quarter. So, like I said, after Tampa's goal line stand earlier in the game on 4th down, it just amplified Quinn's trust in Daniels and the offense. And I think too, you have to play like that with the potential to face the Lions. I think Dan Quinn he knew who he was getting next. You're getting the Lions. They love going for it on 4th down. You have to, you have to keep plays going. You might not get the ball as much because Goff and them are going to try to keep out your hands, try to keep the offense on there as long as they can. So it's a little preparation as well. Smart thinking from Dan Quinn, and it ended up paying out. And now you have the confidence as a team, as Washington going into a game against Detroit, you have the confidence of, hey, if we need to, we can go for it on 4th down and we can convert. So I think that's kind of rubbing off. I think, Dan Campbell's just aggressiveness in the NFC is starting to rub off now on other NFC teams. It's something you have to prepare for. So, just penalties, defensive lapse. It was just a slow start for Tampa Bay. You can't really do that and right now in the season. You should be smarter than that. You should be more disciplined. You should be more focused, ready, blah, blah, blah. Everything we all know. And as much as I love Baker Mayfield, and as much as I will attest to him being probably the most underrated quarterback, one of the most underrated quarterbacks for sure in the league, he does have, or he likely has, a costly turnover. Not even costly turnover, but you're going to probably expect something to happen. And this year it was fumbles. And we saw that happen in a time where it can't. And he just fumbled the handoff, set up the Commanders in great field position. Some, I believe he's tied with Kirk Cousins, right, for the most um, fumbles. So as a quarterback this year, but he had he posted a rate of a 65.2% success rate, his best since joining Tampa Bay. So he's still a great quarterback or a good quarterback, underrated quarterback. He just is going to have a flaw or two in it. Can he, can you overcome that with your defense? And the Buccaneers cannot. So 15 of 18 passes, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, Baker Mayfield, he tried, but they had no running game either. No running game with Bucky Irving, so there was really no balance. It's going to cost you. So just the offensive inconsistencies. So, and then, like I said, Washington, 68%. Fourth down. I had to come back to that stat. It's crazy. That gave you the game's pivotal touchdown. It shows that you can go for it, builds your confidence next week against the Lions. So just overall smart play calling. All right, should we go over to the Eagles and Packers now? They really just feel bad for the Packers. No momentum going into this game. Then you just see a bunch of people go down, which we'll get into. But yeah, Eagles should take care of this one. They did with just the injuries that the Packers were facing with Jordan Love and just you know he didn't have that mojo, that juice. Lost his receivers, 3 interceptions on the game. Yeah, just not a very good day. Not a lot I really need to say besides what I said. Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed both had to leave. You had Watson already out. His line gets hurt. Left guard goes out. You had to have a rookie in there, and then I believe they pulled him. And so you throw in a third string. They just couldn't protect Love. Love didn't have his receiver, or excuse me, yeah, Jordan Love. I was thinking Hurts. I was thinking of the commercial, the Love Hurts. So then I was getting them confused there, but yeah, Hurts still not impressive. I mean, honestly, passing wise, if we're gonna be honest here, AJ Brown, what, 1 catch, 10 yards. Just the fact that that's still happening frightens me. The fact that the Eagles still really don't have and I get it. I got Hurts was out with the concussion, so coming back. But come on now, this has been something I've highlighted all season. This is an issue, and I just don't know how far it can carry you, especially going against the Rams. I don't know. I don't know. All right. That's enough of that game. I covered everything I needed to there. Let's go to the Ravens and Steelers. Lamar Jackson, man, he can ball. Dude can just, and I'm not saying this is like, hey, breaking news. I just have to say it every time. And it just shows because I mentioned if you don't have a balanced attack, that could get you in trouble. No, Ravens said we're gonna have a balanced attack. You can just shut up for now. And just look how impressive they look. Just look at how Henry's, just punishing running style. How that just not only it just opens up the fields. It opens up lanes for Jackson to make plays, not only with his arm but his legs. It, it's just impressive. This is the most complete team when they're playing like this. It just adds a new dimension to the playbook. Allows Lamar to stay comfortable in the pocket. Allows him to make accurate throws. Allows him to read the defense. And that's another thing. The Steelers, I mean, they're once known for their tough defense, for that brute defense. Where was that at? Where was that at? Does Mike Tomlin need to go get a fresh start somewhere? Once again, I mean, sure, Russell, condemn him for, he tried hard in the second half. A little too late, buddy. A little too late. And yeah, they had no run game either. Or excuse me, the Ravens had a run game. The Steelers did not have a run game. So they didn't have a run game either. They just didn't have a run game. So Wilson, I'm all about the balanced attack, as you can see. Wilson couldn't get a rhythm, no run game to go with him. Ravens controlled the time of possession. That also helps too. So Steelers couldn't even if they wanted to, get into a rhythm or get into their own playbook system schemes, this that. They didn't really have time to because the Ravens always seem to have the ball. I think this just they impressed me more than what the Bills did, which we'll also get to in a second. But the Ravens look like the more complete team in the AFC right now. Now, of course, we didn't get to see the Chiefs play this weekend, but just who we saw play, the Ravens look like the most complete team, especially when they're like this. Now they're going against the Bills. Will they keep with that? That's going to be the question. This is the most comfortable that Lamar has looked in a playoff game, and I think that says a lot too. So just the comfort there is a nice thing to know and to have. I mentioned we'll get into the Buffalo Bills, so let's just go ahead and do it. I mean, scary at first. Bo Nix really comes out, starts firing, taking advantage. 43-yard touchdown pass to Troy Franklin, I believe, opening drive. I mean, fast start. It had the Bills on their heels for just a brief moment, but you know your quarterback's great. You know you're great when you can just respond almost immediately, if not immediately. And Buffalo responded almost immediately. And then they go on to do, 31 unanswered points. So Josh Allen, I mean, impressive, yes, but I think the real story wasn't necessarily him. I mean, he had a good game, but it was more the running game of just the Bills in general. I think is kind of what stood out for me more there, and just the fact that the Bills were able to shut down the Broncos after allowing that. I think they allowed just over 100 yards over the next 5 possessions after that touchdown, um, with 4 punts and 1 missed field goal. So they really stood their ground. Of course, that could have been 3 points there on the field goal, but still stood their ground and did it. But yeah, let's go back to that James Cook career high performance. Yeah, I mean, key catalyst for the offense. 120 yards on the ground, 23 carries, kind of like what Henry did. Giving him up there in the 20s too with the carries. That was his first 100-yard playoff game. First Bills player to top 100 rushing yards in a playoff game. That's Thurman Thomas in 1995. That kind of surprised me. I think that just showcases too how much they rely on Allen, uh, just as much as maybe the Ravens do sometimes. So, but yeah, that just showcases that when they can have a balanced attack too, they could be dangerous. Um, and so I'm always going to bring that up. I think there is just the fact of how far a balanced attack gets you. But I think entering the game with the NFL's best sack defense, Broncos they weren't able to really apply constant pressure. And I think that's what allowed Allen to kind of get in a rhythm too and start to click and get going as the game went on. He was only sacked twice, so we'll see there if the Ravens can bring more pressure. In the other game, I don't really want to talk about it. Houston and the Chargers. Just what an embarrassment! What an embarrassment from not only Justin Herbert, but just the Chargers as a whole. Um, Tyrone mentioned to me that Justin Herbert is no longer in top 5 quarterback debates, and I'm not sure I even had him as a top 5 quarterback. Just can't get it done in the playoffs. Really can't get it done. I mean, he was in part of the team that blew a 27-point lead to the Jags. And then you have this embarrassment, Justin Herbert. Ugh, yuck. And I have to agree, he's not a top 5 quarterback right now, but I am on the side that I don't think he ever was. So not really much to say there about that game more than Justin Herbert just absolutely pathetic. And then Stroud right now, 2-1. So sophomore season in the NFL and has 2 playoff wins. Could even have 3 and more counting. So we'll see how the season ends. But that's what you need him to do. I mean, keep improving there. Now they have to face the Chiefs, so I think the road ends there, but we'll see. So just a fun weekend of football. I was correct on the Eagles prediction. I predicted them to win. Lost on the Tampa one. I said Tampa would be on the right side of a 3-point game. They actually ended up on the wrong side. I was correct about the Rams because I knew Sam Darnold was not going to perform when the lights were bright. I was correct about the Bills because if the Broncos won, I'm not sure I was going to be able to make this podcast. I know Tyrone would have had a lot to say, and I was right about Baltimore and the Steelers, and then wrong about the Chargers. So a good day of predictions. Kind of thought what was going to happen did happen, but I think just the overall highlight of the weekend was Jaden Daniels' performance for the Commanders. Just absolutely spectacular as a rookie, and some more things to come from the young man. All right, that is episode 22 of For What It's Worth. I'm not very good at this part of the show, but please, and I mean please, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on, the bell. That way you get the notifications whenever we do post on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. We post our full episodes there as well in case you don't want to listen on YouTube or don't have, the YouTube Premium when you can close your phone and it still plays. So go ahead, you can listen to us on Spotify. We post clips of podcast episodes and just interact with fans and others on our Twitter, on our Instagram, TikTok, anywhere that is social media. Go ahead and just type in For What It's Worth podcast or FWIW Sports Pod. Give us a like, a favorite, a follow, anything that you guys can do. Share the links to the podcast episodes. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support. And until next time, I'm your host, Calvin Silvers. Have a good one.